Beautiful, quiet Sunday morning, so I thought I'd come into the office and do some recording when I'm not here to bother everybody else. I want to spend a few words talking about cross-functional teams. This is a form of organisational structure that is quite modern, quite unusual. Probably in reality, we say it's modern because in terms of the academic and formal understanding, the degree to which it's become a buzzword is probably new. But back in days when the world was much smaller in population and there was less specialisation in the world, cross-functional teams in things like armies or in cases like the village coachmaker who might make the stagecoaches that would travel across Australia. This kind of cross-functionality was a lot more common. But let's have a look at the modern version of it. Cross-functional teams tend to form of a diverse group of individuals with particular expertise coming into play. Just classic, you might bring sales into the engineering department or engineering into the sales department, or have accountants, economists, designers, graphic designers all working in a single team for a single project. Now, the issue of what management has got to do, what management has got to say in this is an interesting one. There's in fact a lack of research looking at how leadership positively impacts on cross-functional team success. But before I go into that, I just want to say that classically, modern companies, particularly large companies, are being set up in departmental style. These cross-functional teams are still relatively unusual. So you'll get, for example, the sales department operating in isolation of the manufacturing team or the design or the accountancy team. And you get what's called this silo mentality, which we see in universities as well, where, the science people never talk with the humanities people, and even on a subdisciplinary level, psychologists don't talk to sociologists and economists don't talk to the finance people, even though there's a fair bit of overlap in those two cases that I just talked about. A lack of interdisciplinary thinking is happening here in academia, and it's reflected in the real world as well. And this is a bit of a problem because people can overlap work without realizing that the same work is happening and could be improved upon by cooperating across these silo boundaries. But the research, going back to the leadership literature, does show that setting some kind of project boundaries is a positive thing, and giving power to the team, so working in a facilitatory, a participatory manner, is very positive, and a theme that you'll see keeping on coming through in good modern management is the issue of open communication. It tends to improve people's performance within a team or within a company. Having senior management support for that particular project, that particular team and its outcomes. Having within the company or within the team people who are truly passionate and committed to the project, champions as we call them. And giving the team a sense of ownership over outcomes, which in a good team is a kind of given. We expect that people perform better within a team environment because they can see themselves connected with a team outcome. When are these kind of projects, I say they're quite unusual cross-functional teams, but what are the cases in which they do get adopted? It tends to happen when time pressure, and we'll talk about that in a minute, a great example of time pressure type of outcomes. When there are problems with customer satisfaction, a very good tip for you as a future or current manager is when you've got problems with customer satisfaction, get the customers and get the sales team to go and talk and walk with your engineering and manufacturing teams. Bring the two sides of the equation together, and this is, in a sense, a form of cross-functionality, certainly a form of cross-functionality, but even a sense of form of a team. And when there are quality problems and you need to ensure that every part of your organization is talking to each other, this cross-functionality is a positive way to go and common. Okay, I said the time pressure issue. I want to just raise this quote, which is a compelling quote because it doesn't come from some business school, but comes from out in the real world. The US National Academy of Engineering claimed as early as 1991 that cross-functional teams in terms of getting things done quickly were a particularly effective way to go. And you'll find, I occasionally talk about the skunkworks team. The origin of the word skunkworks is a little bit obscure. It does relate to smell, by the way. But the skunkworks teams tended to be teams that assembled often during wartime when pressure and time were critical to deal with some kind of technological problem and solve them quickly. Lockheed Martin's produced a particular kind of jet under war pressure in remarkably quick time and sort of set the tone for the Academy of Engineering's claim that this is a way to go when you're under time pressure. And these projects often are quite engineering orientated. Steve Jobs similarly assembled a multidisciplinary team, a cross-functional team, if you like, of around 50 who created the original Mac computer, or the Macintosh as it was called then. Which shows my age that I actually had one of those computers once. And more recently, very recently, Ford's Phoenix project, it was codenamed Phoenix, produced the Ford GT, the 2016 model. And they did so not just quickly and very effectively, but they did so in incredible silence, which in the case of military works is also a key. So it's highly confidential because you've got a small team that is working connected with each other socially in a hothouse kind of atmosphere. In fact, there were only 6 designers involved with the production of this car, as well as a number of people from other disciplines, and they literally had their own basement workshop where the rest of the world didn't know what was going on. And instead of swipe cards, real metal keys. So the MasterCards from Ford couldn't even get you into this hothouse atmosphere. It's an interesting comment, actually, on these cross-functional teams is this car ended up costing $350,000. If you want to produce the same car or similar car more cheaply and perhaps with a little bit more slowly, you ditch the cross-functional teams and go with the traditional silo methods, because the specialist kind of functions where one person concentrates on the tires and one person concentrates on the paint color, etc. This is, of course, proven time and time again to have advantages in terms of cost, bringing cost down. So there is a price to pay for this kind of specialist approach to business.